What is the key for Arne Slot to keep his winning form in Europe despite playing a team that Liverpool hasn't won against in more than 15 years? Stay tuned to find out. Real Madrid has an enormous amount of sharpness in attack with the likes of Vini, Rodrigo and Kylian Mbappe. They're a nightmare for every team that stands in their way. But this season proved that last year's UCL winner can be opposed in different ways. Their style of football is based on possession and a lot of speed. And if we suppose that Liverpool will play in their usual formation, we'll see the well-known 4-3-3 formation with all its benefits and flaws. How do you defend against a side so aggressive? Well, Liverpool will surely try to control the match as much as possible, but this doesn't necessarily mean that the Reds will have more possession of the ball. In fact, I believe that it is more likely for Real Madrid to have higher possession prior to their style. In defense, Liverpool has the epitome of a wall. Ibu Konate and Van Dijk build a strong connection and have now pretty similar style of defending, strong physicality, aerial success and way of moving the ball sideways and forward. Liverpool often implements the use of Trent as basically almost a midfielder, and the Reds are left defending with 3 players in case that's needed. And since Trent goes really high up on the pitch, many times he isn't able to make it back into defense formation on time. And here comes the biggest problem for Arne Slot. Real Madrid have maybe the 2 fastest forwards in the world right now, and if the ball is lost near the final third of the pitch, then Trent will have absolutely zero chance of going back to his position unless Madrid's attack gets intercepted somewhere along the way. Let's take the games against Aston Villa and Brighton for example. Here we can see what happens if the possession is lost high up on the pitch. Trent is close to Brighton's box, loses a duel and balance, which makes it even harder for him, and Brighton is on the counter-attack. Alexander-Arnold has absolutely no chance of getting back, and that leaves the Reds outnumbered in defense. Konate is marking 2 opponents at once, can't get the tackle, and the ball gets crossed to the free player who is in a perfect spot to shoot, and the Reds get lucky to not concede. Before continuing, I'd greatly appreciate it if you take a second to like this video and subscribe to my channel to not miss future analysis like this. Back to the video. In the match against Villa, the same thing happens, but this time Trent is able to catch up to Rodgers, slows him down and stays with him after the pass to make sure he won't receive some behind the defense line pass. And it all goes according to plan this time, but the situation is basically the same. Let's not lie to ourselves, Real Madrid will try to attack with as much speed as possible, especially when Liverpool's lines are not in formation. And it gets even worse. Vini Jr. and Mbappe are positioned on Alexander-Arnold's half of the pitch, which at that moment is going to be guarded by only Konate, who despite his physical attributes is much slower compared to Madrid's attack. What do? Best case scenario, Liverpool has got to show the patience we've seen so many times on the Slot. These situations will happen regardless because Slot will want to use Trent's creative thinking and attacking ability, and if Liverpool are to defend with 3 people, then both 3 will have to be extremely precise to not let anyone pass the defensive line and also not commit any fouls in dangerous areas. Here comes Van Dijk's and Konate's physical attributes. If Real try to counter-attack using long balls, then the aerial duels will be perfect for both our centre-backs. And given they are not the fastest, Slot has put special emphasis on their positioning to help them have even more advantage than just their height. If the ball is passed with short passes and through balls, then it gets a little trickier, but the Reds have an answer for that too. One of the main aspects that distinguish Slot from Klopp is the squad structure and the importance of spending the least amount of time in an unknown or chaotic formation. The Dutchman prefers to avoid taking some risky passes and chances for a counter-attack in order to not leave huge open spaces in defense, which can be exploited by a fast-paced team like Madrid. And except the midfielders who go back in defense to try and intercept the opponent's passes, Liverpool often creates number advantage by dropping both wingers very deep, taking the roles of left and right backs when that's needed. Looking at this video, Mo Salah goes back to tackle an opponent next to Liverpool's box, and that's how the Reds get back possession of the ball. And if you look closely, you see that the Egyptian is patiently waiting for his teammates to intercept the pass, so he isn't too far back to make a sprint and start a potential counter-attack. And just when the right moment comes, that's when he tackles the player from behind, helping his team recover control of the events. Whoever wins the center area of the pitch will win the match. We know just how important the midfield is in every match, and whoever succeeds at dominating in this area will greatly improve his chances of getting the 3 points. Depending on the opposition, Liverpool either plays with 2 defensive midfielders and 1 higher up on the pitch, or with 2 attacking oriented ones and 1 defensive midfielder. Considering that we're facing Real Madrid, let's assume that the Reds will use the first idea Because as we said, one of the most distinguished characteristics of the new manager at Merseyside is not taking unnecessary risks. What will be the difference maker for the English club? The whole structure of Arne's football is overloading the center area with players and leaving only one player on each flank most of the time, whether those are the wingers, the fullbacks or a mix of both. Liverpool's press is constantly adapting, sometimes it's really high and intense, sometimes the players are waiting for the opponents to advance while intercepting the lines of possible passes, and this way they can restore energy. This overload in the middle creates problems for the other team to pass through these zones, and it tends to use more long balls or crosses to conquer spaces and beat Liverpool's lines, which is the perfect scenario for Slot when at the back you have two of the best players in the world at winning aerial duels and a goalkeeper who is not afraid to go forward in his box and catch the ball. The same thing happens when the Reds have possession of the ball. They wait patiently to draw out the opponent's press and create spaces in the middle, then conquer this space with short or lob passes. Most Liverpool attacks go through the center, while the players create the same advantage by filling the zone in front of the box and start searching for behind the back passes or passes on the flanks. With the one difference that when Arne's team transitions the ball forward from the back, mostly in 2-3 structure, the fullbacks go really wide in an attempt to draw the press higher and wider and to open more spaces behind for their teammates to exploit. If there is a guy who can make a difference, it's Mohamed Salah, who just can't seem to stop playing on his level. And the last 2 years proved that he is also one of the most skilled and versatile wingers of this generation. And Slot is finishing Klopp's work of providing the Egyptian with a whole new and much more important role in the team. We talked about his increased role in defense, but he's also one of the key providers of creativity in the Merseyside team. Real won't leave Salah one-on-one with a defender, so that's a good sign for Slot's idea. Teams in the last years have found a way to stop Salah, and it is by simply putting more players in his zone, and it gets really hard for him to dribble past defenders and provide with a good pass. What he does last season, and especially this one, is completely the opposite. More attention from the opponent means bigger spaces in the other parts of the final third, which as we said are overloaded with Liverpool players. And Salah's insane abilities, vision and quick thinking give him a variety of choices to continue Liverpool's attack, without losing the ball, killing the momentum or passing backwards due to lack of spaces to run into. Another thing we see on the Slot is more changing his zone or sprinting to receive in the center of the pitch instead of staying on the flank, as they often switch positions with Trent, who goes wide and uses the space that Salah has just created. And if the defenders choose to leave the Egyptian and stay positional, then Alexander-Arnold is more than capable to create a clear chance for the winger, which he rarely misses. This combined with Salah's speed and his composure in front of the goal make him an enormous threat for the Spanish team. At the end, one thing is certain: if there is someone who knows how to oppose Ancelotti and his machine, it is Slot, and it's time for him to break the negative tradition for the Reds.